The billionaire stood in front of everyone and pointed at the single dad in a dusty work jacket.
Perfect. I really appreciate
He
you
laughed.
coming out.
You think you can fix what my engineers couldn't? The electrician said nothing. But when he looked at the billionaire's building, his face suddenly changed. His hands began to shake, not from fear, but from a memory he had spent 15 years trying to bury. What nobody knew was that this nobody had once walked away from a secret worth millions, and tonight, that secret was about to come back. If you love emotional and mysterious stories like this, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your opinion in the comments. Daniel Carter was just an ordinary electrician. At least, that was what people thought. He lived in a small apartment with his 12-year-old daughter, Lily, and worked long hours fixing electrical problems in homes, stores, and small offices around town. He drove an old white van, wore the same faded work jacket almost every day, and never talked about his past. Daniel's wife had passed away years earlier, leaving him to raise Lily alone. Money was often tight, but Daniel never complained. One rainy Tuesday morning, Daniel received a phone call from a construction company. "There's an emergency at the Harrison Tower," the manager said. "The main electrical system is failing. We need someone there immediately." Daniel almost refused. Harrison Tower belonged to Victor Harrison, one of the richest men in the city. Victor was known for being brilliant, powerful, and extremely difficult to impress. But Daniel needed the money. He grabbed his tools and drove through the rain. When he arrived, the lobby was filled with nervous engineers and expensive suits. Everyone looked worried. Then Victor Harrison walked toward him. He was tall, perfectly dressed, and surrounded by assistants. He looked Daniel up and down. "You're the electrician?" "Yes, sir." Victor glanced at Daniel's old toolbox. "That's all you brought?" Daniel nodded. A few engineers laughed quietly. Victor smiled. "I've spent millions building this tower. My best engineers have been working on this problem for 3 days. And you think you can solve it with that?" Daniel looked at the electrical panel. "I didn't say I could solve it." Victor raised an eyebrow. "I said I'd take a look." For some reason, that answer made Victor angry. "Fine," he said. "If you fix it in 1 hour, I'll pay you 10 times your usual rate. If you fail, you walk out without $1. Daniel accepted. He opened the panel and began examining the wires. For the first 20 minutes, he said nothing. Then his phone rang. It was Lily. "Dad?" Daniel smiled. "Hey, sweetheart. Everything okay?" There was a pause. "Dad, someone called me today asking questions about Mom." Daniel froze. His smile disappeared. "What kind of questions?" "He asked where you worked and if you still had the old blue box." Daniel looked around the room. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing." Daniel's heart began pounding. The old blue box. Nobody was supposed to know about it. "Lily, listen carefully. Don't talk to anyone about that box. I'll be home soon." He ended the call. Victor had been watching him. "Problem?" Daniel shook his head. "No." But Victor noticed the fear in his eyes. Daniel returned to the electrical panel. A few minutes later, he found the problem. "This system isn't failing because of a damaged wire," he said. The engineers gathered around. "What is it?" one asked. Daniel pointed to a hidden control unit. "Someone changed the system's emergency settings." Victor's expression became serious. "Are you saying someone sabotaged my building?" "I'm saying it wasn't an accident." The room went silent. Victor immediately ordered security to lock down the building. But before Daniel could leave, Victor stopped him. "You knew exactly where to look." Daniel stared at him. "I've worked with systems like this before." Victor stepped closer. "Where?" Daniel looked away. "Long time ago." That answer only made Victor more suspicious. That night, Daniel returned home. Lily was waiting beside the kitchen table. "Dad, who was that man?" "What man?" "The one outside." Daniel rushed to the window. A black SUV was parked across the street. Its lights were off. Daniel's face went pale. He knew that vehicle. But he didn't tell Lily. Instead, he locked the doors and windows. Later that night, while Lily slept, Daniel opened a hidden compartment beneath his bedroom floor. Inside was the old blue box. He stared at it for a long time. Then he opened it. Inside were photographs, documents, and a small metal identification card. Daniel Carter wasn't just an electrician. 15 years earlier, he had been one of the lead electrical engineers behind the original safety system used in several major buildings across the country. Victor Harrison's tower was one of them. But Daniel had disappeared after a terrible accident during the project's final stage. Everyone believed Daniel had made a dangerous mistake. His career was destroyed. His reputation disappeared. And Daniel never defended himself. He simply walked away. But the truth was different. Daniel had discovered that someone inside the company had secretly altered the safety system to save money. He had warned the company. Nobody listened. Then an accident happened. Daniel was blamed. The company paid him to remain silent. But Daniel refused the money. He left everything behind and became an ordinary electrician. The next morning, Daniel received another call. This time, it was Victor. "I need you back at the tower." Daniel hesitated. "Why?" "I found something." When Daniel arrived, Victor took him into a private office. On the desk was an old photograph. Daniel recognized it immediately. It showed a younger Daniel standing beside a group of engineers. Victor placed another document beside it. "My father owned the company 15 years ago," Victor said. "I found this in his private files last night." Daniel stared at the document. It contained his signature. But beneath it was a note proving someone had forged the final safety report. Daniel whispered, "Where did you get this?" Victor looked at him. "You were framed." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. For 15 years, he had believed his career was destroyed because he wasn't good enough. Now he finally knew the truth. But there was one more shock. Victor opened another file. "The person who changed the electrical system in my tower is still working for my company." Daniel's heart sank. "Who?" Before Victor could answer, the office door opened. One of Victor's senior executives walked in. It was the same man Daniel had seen standing near the electrical panel the previous day. The man smiled. "You should have stayed a nobody, Daniel." Daniel looked at Victor. Victor finally understood why Daniel had been so afraid. The past had followed him home. Security quickly arrived, and the man was taken away. But Daniel didn't celebrate. He simply looked at Victor and said, "I don't want money." Victor stared at him. "What do you want?" Daniel looked at the photograph of his younger self. "I want my daughter to know that her father didn't fail." Victor nodded. "You have my word." Months later, Victor publicly cleared Daniel's name. Daniel was offered a senior engineering position, but he refused. Instead, he opened a small electrical training center for young people who couldn't afford college. Lily proudly helped him paint the sign. It read, "Carter Electrical Academy." One afternoon, Victor visited. He watched Daniel teaching a group of students. "You could have been a millionaire," Victor said. Daniel smiled. "Maybe. But I already have what money can't buy." He looked across the room at Lily. "My daughter knows who her father really is." Victor smiled. And for the first time, the billionaire understood something Daniel had known all along. A person's worth isn't measured by the car they drive, the clothes they wear, or the money in their bank account. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is carrying the greatest story. And sometimes, the person everyone calls a nobody is the one who sacrificed everything just to protect the people he loved. Daniel had spent 15 years hiding his secret. But when the truth finally came out, he didn't use it to become powerful. He used it to help others. And that was his greatest victory.